Off topic, what do you think McGwire's swing plane? Well, how was his swing plane? Number one. Number two, what do you think his attack angle would have been? I know it's kind of a tough question to answer. And also, I hate to ask it, but what do you think his launch angle would have been as well? Because it seems like I saw that video too. Yes, he's working kind of like Yelich a little bit.
Blast
I guess
down.
internal cue, kind of working down towards the baseball and up through it.
Yeah.
So what do you think what do you think about all of the questions I just posed?
I wish I could say. I was a huge A's fan, obviously, because my dad, the first time I was exposed to baseball, I actually wasn't that. I mean, I was young, but I wasn't that. I lived on a ranch in Oregon, and all of a sudden, I never played baseball. I didn't have a mitt or anything. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, 7 years old, and we went to an old timers game. We went to the city, went to the Bay Area, and it was like, what is this? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. And my dad's like, at that point, we had to trade in your horse for a glove because you never wanted to do anything else except play catch. So, I was hook, line, and sinker with the A's. And then obviously the Canseco thing, McGwire was there, and Ricky Henderson and Dave Henderson and Lansford and Phillips. And man, that team was awesome. But I don't know. I think, he collapsed his backside. So McGwire never got off his right leg. And the one visual that I remember of him is his right foot was funky. It folded in. It never really came up off the ground all the way. Mm-hmm. So his back knee kind of collapsed in instead of rotated down and in. He did drop the barrel and his back shoulder a lot because of that move, which put him under the pitch plane most of the time, which is where he needs to be because of his size. But what he didn't do was he didn't get too steep, I don't think, out in front. Mm-hmm. So when you drop underneath the pitch plane and then you swing up a lot, like an attack angle of 15 to 20, what happens is you'll hit a lot of topspin balls. But he hit a lot of moonshots. So what that means, he dropped under. When he missed, he always missed under. Okay, so he would swing under, but then he wouldn't come up. He wouldn't overcorrect and swing up too much, so he would constantly hit the bottom of the ball, creating a ton of backspin and really high fly balls. So I would say his launch angle on his on most of his home runs were probably 30 to 40 degrees, maybe even like mid to high 30s most of the time. But I think his attack angle was still probably in that 10-degree range. I think it was how he approached it, where Yelich will come in much flatter because he doesn't collapse his backside. That's why Yelich doesn't miss under very often. That's why what did he say? Guys are throwing 100 miles an hour at my belt. Like, this is the only way I can catch up to that. That's a different mindset. Like, 100 miles an hour, Mark McGwire, I love you. But that would have been a really tough pitch that was a tough pitch for anybody to hit. But, a riding four-seam fastball would have been tough. He was he played in a sinker slider day, and that's how his swing, that's where it caught it. He was a good low ball hitter.
Yeah. People don't really bring that up, though, about how we could say back in the day now, because, I mean, it still feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
But 98, I guess, well, I don't know, 95. I was still very young at the time. 95 to 2003. Well, guys didn't throw as hard in that era of the game. Well, yeah, but you just made a great point. They threw a lot of sinkers and a lot of sliders, and now the emphasis is on more so velocity.
Yeah, and the game it always evolves. I mean, if you look at my dad and I always used to look at old time swings, right? You'd see Gehrig, right? You'd always see Gehrig very upright. You'd see guys Ty Cobb very upright and flat. Remember the catchers in those days? They didn't squat.
Yeah.
They didn't. Yeah. They weren't in a full squat because
they were on their toes, right? They were on their toes.
What's that?
They were on their toes, in a way.
Yeah, they were like up. They were like in a 3/4 squat, and the mound was super high, right? So they were throwing. It was a high fastball league, and that's why when you saw a lot of the guys, probably prior to 1940. They were all high ball hitters. And when you're a high ball hitter, your back foot drags a lot, your shoulders don't drop as much, and your attack angle is going to be 0 to 6 degrees. And then all of a sudden they lowered the mound in 69, and those high fastballs now were getting destroyed. Yeah. So what happened? Okay, everybody started to throw sinkers and sliders, And then all of a sudden the hitters finally adjusted in the 90s and they started to catch up. And then there was the big, if you want to call it the steroid era or whatever. But guys were hitting home runs. And then where did things change? And then everybody's taught, hey, lift that ball. You got to get down and get that ball down at the knees. Now everybody's like, pitchers are smart. Okay, let's go back to that riding fastball.
Yeah.
Throw as hard as we possibly can, and let's see what happens. So, hitters are usually a few years behind, what the pitchers are doing. That's why you got to have your hitting coach and your pitching coach talk once in a while. Hey, what are you guys working on? Because I guarantee you everybody in the league's working on that same thing.